Welcome to the In Search of More podcast. I am your host, Eli Nash. Join me weekly on my quest for more from myself and more from this world. We'll see you on the other side. Okay. Welcome, Moshe Haim.
Thanks for having me back.
Welcome to Miami, or
Welcome to
Southwest
Miami.
Ranches. Yes.
This is beautiful. No, thank you so much. Like, I loved the last time, but this is, wow.
Yeah, we did a podcast before, but it was in a basement in Brooklyn. So we sat down a couple of summers ago, probably about nearly June, July time, would probably maybe August, would be 2 years. And we're back again, but this time in the In Search of More studio. I forgot the name of the podcast for a second. There, that was the pause.
That's when you know it's working. That's when you know it's working.
Okay, so catch us up.
So I think I'm incredibly grateful to the podcast, because since the podcast, it allowed me to acknowledge certain things like externally with people, and invited a whole new depth of relationship between me and my wife and the relationships that I do have. So now that it was beautiful to share. It was beautiful to be like, and it opened up some interesting doors. Like, people have heard it, and people reach out who have heard it, and it's like, whoever takes whatever pearl that they can, I'm like, wow, okay. And now there's enough distance where it's like, it's endearing that I did that, and I'm happy, and I'm touched. And you are, there's really recognized people in the spheres that I work in with breathwork and psychedelics, and and wherever I find myself, and your name has been high regarded. And anytime I'm in Miami, like I just love to sit and schmooze. And if it's a podcast, if it's a this, if it's a chill, I'm
It's both.
open and willing. No, and I have to learn what it is, so to actually allow that.
It's a smooth and it's a chill, and we're recording just in case it may be useful.
Just in case.
Someone else.
So it's an interesting thing for me. It's an interesting process, because I don't know. I never know if what I'm saying is useful. I hope, and sometimes there's an interesting feedback loop, but I don't know. I don't. And not only do I not know if it's good, but I also am very. My OCD mind is really ready to beat the crap out of me. And, well, I should say that, or I shouldn't say that, or that's just your ego playing. So my fragmented sense of self is always at play in a large way. So I really hope that there's something useful in being able to acknowledge that, yes, there's that unspoken head that judges me. And anyways.
Right. I've started to think of the podcast as the value is just in the conversation, meaning the recording is somewhat secondary.
Yeah.
And that a conversation itself has all the elements of a journey, especially when you add the difference for me when you have the mics and the camera and the lights is that we both know we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My phone's on Do Not Disturb. Your phone's on Do Not Disturb. The people in our life both know that we're
choosing to be here.
Right, but we're also not available to them for the
Mhm.
next little bit outside of a real emergency, right? So we're in this conversation, and what that creates, that space, it slows things down. It slows down the conversation. It brings both people completely present, and it has all the elements of a journey. And whether or not it gets recorded, and whether or not it gets posted, is separate part of it.
Yeah, but it's interesting, because you're mentioning that we both have our own separate lives. Like, we were just graced with the presence of your kids, and like and I met parts of your family, and seeing the House of More. It's like there's so many avenues to life, and I'm thinking about my wife, and I'm thinking about my daughter, and I'm thinking about like there's nothing that I would love to do more other than just like be swimming with my kid and the daughter and hearing that laughter and just like going bananas. And then I choose to be here, and it's like, okay, so now that I've chosen, and now that I'm willing, and now that I'm opening to occupy a room, so what now? So if it's to just be with another person in their own common humanity and a search for more and just breathe with him, then awesome. And if there's something that needs to come out, wonderful. And people who call me, find that space. Like, it doesn't have to, it's just a
People who
space.
call you?
Yeah.
And he call you for help?
Just call me.
Okay.
People call me to talk. People call me for a session. People call me for a perspective. People leave a podcast. People wonder.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm somebody to call. They happen to call. So
Right. I've sent a number of people your way.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. That last one was endearing.
I don't know. Yeah.
Just because it was the last one that I remember.
Right.
It was the day before a workshop, and I got to decide whether, like, okay, so do I, like, it's right, literally the night before I was going on to a 4-day retreat, and I was like, okay, so do I send out do I ask him to come? Do I not ask him to come? So I had that, like, monkey, not chatter in my mind, but otherwise it was a really wonderful conversation, and just.
Did they join the retreat? No.
No.
Oh, you didn't
No. But I told him, like, this is my number, and anytime you want to help a schmooze, like, these are the hours that I'm around. I'm here.
Okay, so let's talk for those who don't know who you are and they're just meeting you here for the first time. Meaning maybe they didn't watch a previous podcast. Talk a little bit about what you do. You do breathwork retreats. You're also in the regular world working, right?
Yes, I'm in the regular world working. I was a buyer for a retail chain. I handle manufacturing and supply chain for a distribution company, for my father's company. So, like, I do that. I have that business acumen. And my off time, I'm a breathwork facilitator, and I run these workshops that are 4-day workshop retreats, going through 6 breathwork sessions. It's either going through vulnerability as a pathway to surrender, really going through the steps of acknowledging the different vulnerabilities that we carry, and going through acceptance and trust and letting go and surrender, like stepping into a space on their search for more and finding their hineni. And, like, here I am on that breath, like in that inhale or in that exhale. And this is where I am.
That's what you call your retreat, right? Hineni.
Yeah. Hineni. It's really like, here I am, wherever I am.
So you offer 4-day breathwork retreats?
Yeah.
Men and women, just men?
No, just men.
Just men?
Just men.
And in general, you only work with men?
Correct.
Got it. And you also do one-on-one work? Yeah. Like one-on-one breathworks, or also coaching, or?
Coaching and breathwork, and people who need to get around or have the conversations that they don't normally have. So sometimes you're talking about the people that need to have the conversations that they don't normally get to have, whether it's dealing with shame or addiction or just different stuff that they don't feel comfortable going to just an ordinary person. And yeah.
Right. I think there's a lot of value in, I feel like for myself, there's a lot of value in being in both worlds, right? So being in the business world and working and holding down a job, and then also doing this kind of work, like you do with Hineni, or I do with Adama, where there's the people who are coming there are mostly doing that,
mm-hmm.
right? Meaning most of them are working and they're dealing with the day-to-day grind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great that people are able to devote their lives completely to it and be immersed in it. There's something beautiful about that. And there's also something that I think for those of us who are in the daily grind and then at the same time do this kind of work, we can connect with the struggle in a different way.
So I like being as relatable and real as possible. So to double down and just, this is what I do full time. I tried it when I was single to do it for 3 years, and it was good. It was good. And then I thought I may just like ease into doing that when I started, when I got married. And then I realized that the second I'm really tied to it, my anxiety, again, my own experience around when is the next whatever number coming in, or when is the next, in Arabic we would say be'a, when is the next deal, or when is the next head, or when is the next call, or when is the next breath work. So like I don't need to do that to myself. So I went back into the business world, but it was a very distinct knowing that I want this to be nourishing for me, and I don't want to need it in the way I don't want to need it to feed my kids.
Right. So you're bringing up a completely different aspect, which is beautiful as well, is that you're not bringing that energy to the work that you're doing.
Do I enjoy the financial aspects? Yes, because yes, though, is that the main driver. I if it wasn't a driver, it wouldn't be happening. But I'm very grateful that it's a diversified source of income.
Right. Right. You don't have to bring that sort of energy to a conversation
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, I got to get this guy.
And I would be honest with people that call me. I'm like, look, they're like, oh, should I come? You know, Hasidim. I don't know. Like, I'm assuming that Adama has been exposed. They really want to know if something is going to help them. I've found that a lot of men that call me really like, so do you think this is going to help? And I don't always have that answer, but I'm really honest with, like, I'm like, look, even if I give you an answer, I have what to gain from you coming. I do. I have negias in it. Like, that's just what it is. Not because I'm holier than thou. Just my higher interest is for you to get help. So for me to tell you, go do this and don't do this, like, what the hell do I know? So for me, I being honest about it is helpful. Just to stay on the straight and narrow.
Right.
And the proof is in the pudding because it winds up being pretty good work. It does.
Yeah. So talk about the work. When you say a breathwork retreat, you doing breathworks every day?
Yeah, multiple breathworks every day.
Multiple breathworks every day.
So Thursday is one breathwork, Friday there's 2, Shabbos there's 2, and Sunday there's 1. So that's 6.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, no, and anybody who's come has done it, has like done a breathwork or 2. They know what it is. They know what they're walking into. It's like people sitting in an ayahuasca ceremony with people that actually sat. It's a different energy. So sometimes there's somebody who's like has been to a 12-step group and knows how to sit. So so they're coming in ready for something, whether it's to acknowledge, whether it's to accept, whether it's to step into trust. And thank God.
And you're doing like holotropic style transformational breathwork.
Transformational breathwork 6 times, everything from the playlist to, I got the drums going and some gongs and chimes. It's a whole vibe. Look, I've been doing this for a minute. So I remember when Call the Shofar brought breathwork onto the scene. I remember I was there. And I remember when breathwork was not in Crown Heights, and I remember when breathwork was in Crown Heights. So it's something amazing to this process. So to double down into the process and then say, you know what, let's just
Do it
just
again.
breathe, let's just do it again, and then just do it again, and just do it. Why? Because it feels good, and because it's real, and because the more you do it is the more you do it. And you're like, wait a second, this actually makes sense. This actually makes sense. There's something to continuously breathing into my life. And then if we really need to Jewify about it, listen to the last podcast. You'll find it if you want to. So people who are on that search that can't come here because they haven't come here yet, they also find their way over to me, and they find their way over to other places, which are wonderful. But there's a value to it just being a circle. There's a value to it just being breathwork, where I'm taking myself out of it. Now, in full transparency, Shabbos, there is a deeper sense of processing. There's family constellations. There's people stepping into their story and into their power, and the inner child meditations, and seeing, whether it's the different perpetrators or the victims, or how I'm getting in my own way. And we all know how we get into our own way with the words that we say or with the words that we don't say. So it's a real opportunity to let people unfold.
Yeah, it's beautiful. How large of a group do you typically work with?
So I've worked with all types. All right, and the shofar days we had up to like 20.
No, I'm saying right now.
Right now 15, 18 is is a wonderful workshop. Some people like it smaller. Okay,
So that's your typical offering. That's your most common offering is a 4-day breathwork retreat.
Currently, yeah.
How often do you do it?
Anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year. So one of them is just on the vulnerability side, and then in the summer, we do all about love. It's
love.
It's like a real heart opener.
Which means?
What does love actually mean? What are the elements?
No. What is that? What would be the difference between a workshop that focuses on vulnerability and a workshop that focuses on love?
One is about being the lover, and one is about really being in a place of surrender and where I am and landing in my own life and what I need to be doing. So it's not the same, but it's not different. So it's like, which angle am I going on the left, or am I going on the right? But yeah.
Understood. I think I understand. Just before we came here, we took a stop at the House of More. First time there. What'd you feel?
So I think what's amazing is I see the consistency between here and there, and that is breathtaking. Like there's a consistency in the vibe and the energy, and this is somewhere where we're offering healing and offering safety and offering love and respect and dignity, and it's like, okay, like if you want it, it's here. If you want it, it's here. All you have to do is
If you want this here,
yeah.
it's here. Yeah, that was the concept. That was behind the name, and there's always so much in a name. I think we capture more in a name than we know.
Mm-hmm.
There's the thought that the name that parents choose for their children are divinely ordained, so to speak, concept. But this is a child also, right? A podcast is a child. A house is a child. Like a project is a child. An effort like this is a child of sorts. And the name that was chosen, the House of More. I understand what I thought, but also there's obviously so much more that's connected to it. But the idea was, hey, we have this In Search of More, right? Which this podcast is. I don't know. It's really about my own more. A lot of the relationships in my life have changed because of the podcast. A lot of things that happen in my life, the channel that it flowed through was the podcast. I can give an example of that. Today at the House of More, we have a shul.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that the shul would have happened, not without the concept of the podcast, but without the specific podcast that I did with Avi Wolf and Lara Boschkin. Like those podcasts specifically led to the birth of shul. So it's kind of one and the same. So we created a space, the House of More, which is like, okay, here we're in search of more, and here's a house that's trying to contain the more that we're in search of.
And all I will say is that the more is impossible to be contained, and the second it is contained, it's less. So it's just so that take that and see what you do with it. But
the more is a flow. It's not a.
It's a holding of the more. It's a holding of the more. Definitely
it's a
not.
flow. Yeah, it's not a.
It's fantastic because for me, I know how my life has been touched by it. Just for like, I got really stuck in my head. I got really, really, really stuck in my head. Anybody that knows me knows it. And then I got the DSM test to prove it. Like I get into my own thinking. Your podcast, having the conversations that aren't had, it's such an amazing avenue and channel. I mean, for my wife to say that after the first Lara Boschkin podcast, I think she said it from you, that it's like when you're molested, it's that your sense of sexuality is molested. Not that only that you are molested, but that your sexuality itself is molested. And for my wife to mirror that to me, and I could say, what? Not in the like, whoa, my God, that's so cool. I'm like, what the hell was that? Because it's slapping me with truth that I never heard before. So the more is like it's more. It's just so much more. So I think that's what I'm doing back here. What am I doing? And I asked her, I'm like, what am I speaking about? I'm like, she's like, whatever the hell you want to. Really, whatever the hell you want to. I'm like, but what's more? So thank you for just being in a place of holding that, because it's ecstatic. I don't know what to do with it in Brooklyn. I don't know what I
you know what to do with
this want and desire for more.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think there's two. I don't know if I've shared on the podcast, interestingly enough, but there are two. It's like, I don't know, a tension or two sides to the concept of more. On the one hand, there's this kind of thirst, right? There's always more. So there's this humility that comes with the fact that there's always more. But then there's, on the other side, there's this contentment because there's a knowledge that there is always more. Meaning, if there's more for now, but then there's an eventual destination, then there's no contentment. But when there's more with the knowledge that wherever we get, there will be more, then further along is the same as now. So I can be at peace now too. So there isn't a spot where we land and say, okay, there's no more from here.
So the way I would always receive it and be reminded of it is through Rabbi Joey Rosenfeld, and how he would continuously
Still
go.
didn't get him on the podcast.
It happens when it happens, and he'll really give over Rav Maya Morgenstern's Torahs of how we're always on the way and we're already there. We're always on the way and we're already there. And he brings it the ani v'ayin v'asachas, and just us continuously being in those places of that kiss.
We're always on the way, and
we're always there.
Right. Yes.
So it's like we're never outside of God's presence, and we're always seeking that deeper in. And sometimes you think it's outward, but really sometimes it's really the bechinat of ovi, of just going deeper and deeper, like inward. And it's like we're right after Purim, and I think to myself, well, what am I coming out with? Like, I know how my Purim looked, and it was beautiful and it was wonderful. And okay, how do I pivot into just more being there and being on the way there at the same time? They have this thing in 12 steps, 90 meetings in 90 days.
Yes.
So Sanhedrin.
Been there, done that.
I hear you. No, I hear you. Props. Sanhedrin, in the Daf Yomi, is now in page 93. So and I saw something of, Sanhedrin starts on whatever day it started. So I was like, okay, fine. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm not putting the from hat on. I'm just like, I know how to do it, so let's do it. I did it. So 90, and I'm doing it. I don't know if I would have had the courage in myself to do that unless my life was touched by something from this podcast. And I mean specifically the fact that things exist. So it's like people have told me you have no right to not do what I do because you have no concept of the different fruits that are coming from it, and you could take that and put that as your own makeup and how you show it to the world, or you could just be very humble and like, this is what Creator gave me, and if I could be of service with it, and if somebody finds it of service, then wonderful. Then the fact that it is a complete gift. It's got nothing to do with me. That also I got from learning.
Right. Right. It's cool to chat with someone on the podcast who also listens to it.
How did okay? So this is. Can I turn the tables for a second?
Yeah.
How does it show up with you leading a Dhamma?
How does what show up?
The in search for more.
Explain the question a little.
This hat, not hat, but this role of being Eli Nash on the podcast. I'm sorry for turning the table.
Yeah.
But being Eli Nash at the House of More, and then Eli Nash in Adama. How does that show up there?
If I understand the question, how does it affect it? So, in some ways, there's a challenge because there's an instant mismatch when I walk into the room with someone where they feel like they know me. I don't know them often. If I do, maybe I spoke to them briefly about Adama, and usually not. Usually Meir has those conversations leading up to Adama. And then there are times where there's a little bit of a letdown for the other person, which thankfully in Adama, there's the opportunity at some point to express that. But what they expected, someone can feel like they're my friend or they know me well, and they'll greet me in a certain way. And I'm like, I've never seen you. I don't know who you are. So, and on a retreat where I'm also the one sitting in front of the room, that can be experienced as a letdown on the other side. Also, there's a way that's possible to show up for an hour and a half, 2 hours on a podcast. And it's more difficult to show up like that for 36 hours on a retreat.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I mean, that was so eloquent. Thank you. It's interesting doing workshops because from Kol the Shofar to Journey to Home to Hineni, and it's that people put you on this imaginary pedestal in your head, and then I found that it's almost like you owe them I don't owe them an apology for where they decided to place me inside of their head, and I thought for a long time that I needed to. So it was just, I was curious how we're in such different places. We just happen to have, hold the seats that we hold on a workshop. So it's just interesting to me.
Right. At the same point in time within it, I think Meir and I tried to do as good a job as we could of not holding that too tightly,
Hmm.
that seat. And in the spaces where, um, let me think, but in a breath work of his, I'm in the breath work,
Duty.
right? So, and in many other things that we're leading, we'll participate in different ways. So if there's a sweat lodge, and in the last Adama, we had Daniel Herman, who's cool because he's been on Adama
Hmm.
as well. And then to come back just for the sweat lodge portion. And, we're sitting there sweating with the guys
Yeah.
also. And if there's an opportunity to share, I'll share from, the personal journey part. And there were a couple of Adamas where I came in very difficult places.
Hmm.
Like one where I was in my relationship was dicey, very, very, very dicey. And during the Adama, I got emotional at different points. Like there was stuff going on at home. And, it's kind of towing a line between not bringing it, not making it their problem, so
Hmm.
to speak, but also not bullshitting them.
Yeah. No, it's
That is where I'm at.
so a lot of people ask me like, so how can I describe my space? I said, if done right, it's a space where bullshit stinks. So it's like whatever you're bringing in is welcome, and it requires a deep humanity and humanity and humility to the reality of, yeah, like I've come on. Yes.
I had another Adama where I sat down right as we're about to like start the opening circle. I get a message from my business partner, and he's like, "Did you see the email from blah blah blah?" And no, like no, and I'm going into like, why would you? Why would you do that? So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to look at. I'm not going to look at an email, And then I'm sitting there, like starting in the opening circle, and I'm like, is there some news in my email box that would?
I get it. I get you.
And this thought is spinning, spinning and spinning. Like, okay, I got to be here. Like the guys are here. I'm meeting them. Name, they're this or that. I keep trying to pull myself present. I'm like, should I go check the email? And then I think it was, after the opening circle, I said, let me just see what it is, so I know what I'm dealing with, because that's where and there is no email,
And it
And
becomes your workshop.
But right, and then that was so like I'm dancing with that for probably 3-4 hours. By the time we finished next morning, I'm like, there was no email from the guy. What are you talking about? I didn't get an email. He's like, I meant a WhatsApp. I'm like, that's what you were tripping out on? There was nothing. Like, like, dude, I'm walking in a retreat. You can't drop that. But obviously, what it highlighted was some business angst that was there anyway, and then bringing that to the table. So as much as possible, I think we try to do that. And then there's also opportunities for people to. I think my greatest satisfaction in life comes from watching people grow and watching people step into their own in different ways. Like when when Mayor K suggested that he's planning on doing a breathwork certification, I was so all over that. I was like, man, if you're thinking about it, you're doing it like 100%. And like whatever I can do to push and support that, if you're ready to step out in that way, which is a completely different thing. Hey, I'm going to be a breathwork coach. To I'm going to certify other people to be breathwork coaches. I was like, I love seeing that. That's my, I don't know if say it's like my greatest joy in life is to watch that evolution and growth for someone. So at Adama, I think we try to bring that as well. That it's like, okay, you're here, but where's there opportunities for you to give back and to share and to support others that way?
I remember even seeing from years ago when I saw the friendships that came out of workshops, when I started learning who the people are and what they're doing, it's amazing. It's amazing. And then seeing the Mayor K breathwork certification, I saw that, I was like, damn, like, of course he did it. Like, that's awesome. It's like, it's awesome. And it grinded me because I'm my seat. And yes, we can own that it grinds. And it's like, where the hell am I? Like, damn it. Like, I think I saw that. And I pinged off of it. I had a conversation with my wife and I booked a workshop the next day. I'm like, I can't. I have this thing where I stay stagnant. So it takes a Mayor K to shine his light. It takes a search of more podcasts to come out where it's like, oh, okay, I could flow also, and it's inspiring. It's just really, really genuinely inspiring.
You know what's interesting is we did so at the House of More, we're kind of evolving. Recently, we stopped charging for
Hmm.
like the actual evening workshops or stuff like that. Like what was going on there was a meditation. Even when Mayor Kay does a breath work, we stopped charging. Now, I mean, we'll see how it'll evolve because sometimes you end up with just too much demand. So for now, for example, for mayors, it's free, but you got to be a newcomer,
Sweetness.
right? You got to be
Yeah.
new to the work. Oh, we're not gonna,
Yeah.
check your credentials or something, but do a lie detector test. But it's like that's the idea. Is hey, if you're new to it, then sign up. And as part of this evolution that's going on and saying, okay, there's so much more that we can offer, we put out a questionnaire to a bunch of people. Come out and say, how'd you hear about us? Why do you come? What do you like about it? And what do you think the number one? I'm sure you know, but just the number one thing people are coming there for:
Oh,
community.
really?
100% community. That was the most common answer. So when you're thinking about it, it's like, yes, there's a breathwork workshop, right? That's happening. There's a sweat lodge ceremony. We'll do different Jewish, Rosh Chodesh event. What are they actually coming for? What do people
You're
actually
coming
want?
for the community.
They're coming for the community.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same when people are coming to retreats, when people are coming to, that's why, speaking to Adam Klasner from Anochi, I shared a similar idea with him is that, in this space, I don't see competition because it's like, who's your most likely person to come back? These are the people thirsting for that community. And that's why so many of these relationships are born because we all need to belong. And imagine not belonging when you're in a community, meaning you're officially in a community and it's like, okay, this is my community. I'm in Crown Heights, but I don't feel that sense of belonging. And then when you can find that community within the community and say,
So-
okay, I found that belonging, people come back for more over and over again.
So here's my challenge to that. Not challenge, but
Yeah,
like
go
my
ahead.
experience of it. Where I've been a part of a nice number of communities, and I personally have never felt like I belonged. I was wounded in the sense of belonging from a very young age. So it's like this sense of community. Like I know the community that comes from these workshops. And let's talk about men's work and then there are the people that aren't part of a clique, or they're scared. They're scared to connect to other people. So I was always hesitant whenever I had that sense of community, partially because I'm Sephardi and like everybody else is Ashkenaz, so I don't belong from that point. When I see community, that brings up fear. When I see community, it brings up fear because it brings up my memories of being molested in a community.
Molested sexually.
Yeah, within a community.
And what's the association between the molestation and the community? How did that?
It's
You know what I mean by that?
say more.
So let's say someone said they were molested by a rabbi, right? So
Mhm.
then they may not, right? They can do different things with that. They may say, "Oh, I was molested by a rabbi," and then therefore they have a God problem,
Mm-hmm.
or "I was molested by a man,"
Mm-hmm.
and then they have a man problem, or they were molested by. Remember, one person said, "I was, molested by a very hairy guy." Right. And then that was his hairy man. That was association. What I'm saying is that, and maybe you heard me talk about this concept of how broadly or tightly we draw a circle around an experience. I remember having a friend who had a very tough experience with an employee who was single. And he said, like, I'm never hiring someone who's not a family man. Like, never again am I hiring someone who's not a family man. But he could have gone to a lot of places with that. He associated the trouble he had with this individual with the fact that he didn't have the responsibilities of a family.
Mm-hmm.
And then he drew the circle around the experience. Let's say the guy was from New York. He could have said, I'm never hiring a New Yorker. Right? He could have gone a lot of different places. So I'm asking from your perspective when you say, I was molested in a community. So what made that link? How did those two get
I think the
connected?
shame associated with it. Like the word that really comes up is shame. When that happened, I really committed and doubled down and tripled down on the fact that I saw myself as different and different from everybody else and different from my peers and less than. So it's not only that, like I wasn't getting the affirmation that I belonged either. wasn't getting the reassurance that I belonged. Um, I don't remember experiencing a lot of that, specifically with my peers, specifically in school, specifically in shul. Like I always had that experience, and that was going on at the same time. So it's like in the
What came
absence,
first, you think?
the reassurance from kids, the sense of belonging from peers, um,
What?
the absence of reassurance and friendship from peers.
Before the molestation.
If I had to say what do I remember,
Yes.
yeah, I would say that. And then
How old were you when you were molested?
9. So it's not only that I was getting the reassured that I belonged and that I was okay. Again, I also had the body stuff. Like I had surgeries. Like there was stuff that was going on in my life.
Right.
And then
You
that
shared some of
started
this in the
going,
last
and
podcast,
and then other stuff started happening. So then it was just bad stuff happening. So it's like in the absence of the good and in the presence of bad, it really hurt. So that's where I've been clawing myself out of for a good 18, 20 years. So
Right. I'm interested in this link between the
community.
molestation and community.
So it's the shame. The shame is the link.
The shame that.
The shame, the feeling that you're different, the feeling that you're less than.
Okay, I got
Right?
it.
That shame, that sense of self, that fragmented sense of self, that I'm broken, that I'm different.
I think at our age, meaning for adults, when adults talk about the fact that they were sexually abused, then there isn't shame there,
Okay.
right? We can say it. Maybe there may be within a small,
Yeah.
like the family, but it's from a community perspective. It's like, okay, there are many people who are sexually abused. I want to say there isn't shame, but there's much
Fair
less
enough.
shame there than there once was. And possibly for someone wanting to work through it, it's a little bit easier as an adult. But when those cases happen, when the kid stands up against the teacher who's current or the principal who's current, then all the same dynamics and confusion come to the surface. But I wanted to make clear that you answered my question.
No, so
Right, answer my question.
I think we got here with the idea of one of the gifts of House of More is the community that's coming, and community is something that I personally have had a very hard time finding, specifically because of just stuff that I went through. And the whole joke is you ask the community and they'll tell you I'm part of the community, and for all intents and purposes, I'm part of a community. So, but that sense of belonging to a community, I don't always
right, that's not
experience.
yeah, it's interesting. I was sitting in a circle once with a guy, and I don't know what it was. Like, he came there, and I think he sponsored something or something else. So I said to him, I don't remember the exact context, but I remember telling him, I said, you really feel like you have to like earn your seat. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, what do you mean? I said, everyone else can come here just to be part of it. But in order for you to belong, like, you have to show up and pay for dinner.
So,
and as I was saying it to him, I realized that I have the same
that
malady.
was good. That was so tasty. That was so tasty. And it's like again, I said this recently. A coach of mine, Mordechai, said that taught me the words, I need to put boundaries around my pain. So it's like that, like that's generally a mantra I try to live by. And in that, I have to remind myself that I'm okay. And I have to remind myself that there's nobody grading me. And like, I think there was a conversation I had with my wife when we first got married. It's like, well, nobody's grading you. We had this whole thing. We like to grade ourselves in our head. Like, listen, if somebody was actually grading you, you'd fail. So stop grading yourself. And I heard that, I was like, that's true. Like, that's actually true. So I don't need to wait to be okay to be at the table. Even if I'm at the back of the table or at the end of the table, I'm still at the table.
Right, but now it makes sense why the concept of community is what added to your abuse, right? Because in that dynamic as a 9-year-old, the feeling, the conclusion you could have made is, hey, if we weren't part of a community and I just told you someone molested me, then you'd address it, you'd take care of it, right? Business would be done. And suddenly, because we're in a community, so now you're worried about your shame from the community. Okay, community is bad. Community is painful.
And these are people that are from the community.
Hurtful. Yeah, of course. I understand.
And these are and so, yeah.
Yeah. So you get hurt within the community, and then you get hurt because
And
of the community. So then you get afraid of community.
I mean, it's interesting for me. I went. It took going back to therapy after so many years of doing like okay, like let's go back. I'm like, wait a second, there are parts of me that I have not grieved. There are parts of me that I have not actually felt. Does that mean that I wasn't okay beforehand? No, but like there are layers that I'm actually starting to reveal inside of myself of things that I deserve and things that that were not okay and things that could be okay.
Right. I shared earlier about this, like coming into Adama and being in a rough place with
Hmm.
my wife. And I think, part of the occupational hazard of doing the kind of work we do, or even, what I do with the podcast, is as much as we'll say, like, yes, we're on the journey, right? There's this voice that's like, okay, but I'm good now, right? Like, I'm good. I feel okay. I feel good. And as I got to the retreat and I'm dealing with the stuff, and obviously it's coming up, and of course I start seeing people who are mirroring back exactly where I am in the journey. And I had a massive breakthrough during the breath work. I was able to release a lot of the anger around it. I heard from Gedaliah Fenster that when a man is able to release the anger, like let go of the anger in their relationship, then their spouse will shift.
Hmm.
They'll see profound shifts in their spouse. So there were massive. I was able to release a tremendous amount of anger that I was holding, it frustration in the relationship,
Hmm.
and see my part in that, and see what I needed to let go of, and see how I can show up differently. And after that, I said, okay, so what happened?
Hmm.
Right. And I touched on something. What was interesting is I touched on like a very, very deep wound in childhood that I hadn't previously. I'm like, I don't understand, with all the medicine I've done, with all the work I've done, like, how did this never come up? It was so foundational, so central. It was, um, I'm going back in my memory, but it was a rage. It was an internal rage. What I concluded was I had an internal rage anytime I felt a need. So as a need was coming up inside me, I would kind of hate myself for it. And then I
Hmm.
realized at a very young age, I have a need that's not met. That's painful reality. Okay, whose fault is it that it's not met? In theory, the caretakers, right? Whose fault is it that I have a need? Mine. I can't change the caretakers. I can change mine. I started hating my needs.
Hmm.
So this seems something like, okay, I should have stumbled upon this, right? Like
Like I should.
somewhere in this journey. Like, how am I at something so foundational,
Hmm.
15 years into a journey, so whatever I've done, it seems like so central. How could I have lived with this before? And how could I have not touched this? And what I concluded through that process is that in my relationship, and not only in that, but in other relationships, there's there was an aspect of me that felt safer. Okay, like let me take a step closer in my relationship. Okay, like now I can take a step closer. And then those wounds at that proximity all of a sudden rear its head when I wasn't trying to be that close and I was comfortable, let's say, for lack of a better measurement, let's say I was comfortable with my wife at a distance of 2 feet. But I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm good at 2 feet. And I've had to clear up the wounds that existed in childhood when I was at the distance of 2 feet. But now I want to get to a foot and a half closeness. Now I have to have all these wounds that I got to work through.
Okay. It's. I mean, look, if Kabbalistically, I'm not going to claim to be that guy, even though I listen to those people, but there's always deeper and there's always more, and you're always following the same spirals and patterns um, as we go. So each step and each foot deeper into the pool, it's like there's more. Okay, and there's more. Like okay, and it's like, and any second I think that I've gotten it or pretend that I've gotten it, it's like life is there to remind me to stay humble
Yes.
and in wonderful, beautiful ways and the most heart went. Like I love my life, and it's funny because we've had an interesting conversation. I don't even remember what we spoke about, but I love my life. Like I'm here celebrating my like 3 years with being married. Like again, it's a hot minute for people that have done it for 30, but in my head, it's living the answer to a dream that I never thought would happen. So it's like, wait, I'm back in Miami, yes, and yes, and conversations like this open a space for more in my own relationship. Why? Like because I can. In my head, probably like 2 or 3 years ago to many people that wound up on the podcast. It's like, Eli Nash podcast is Eli Nash podcast. And now it's like we could go and sit down and have a conversation and be on Eli Nash's podcast because Eli Nash happens to have a podcast and we could speak. So I'm really grateful for how life grows us up. And it does. And the muscles and the journey and all of it. But yeah, keep on saying yes. Keep on saying yes. I'm trying to figure out how to. My daughter is now breathing when I tell her, like, give a breath. She's doing it. It's wonderful. And now she wants to keep on dunking her head underwater. I'm like, how do you teach her that you can't breathe underwater? I guess it's something that you just figure out. I don't know.
I think she'll figure it out.
Is it? I don't know. You tell me. I need help.
How old?
She's 19 months.
Got it.
19 months. But,
So I don't know for certainly in Miami where there's a lot of bodies of water. I think it's good practice to kind of teach your kids to swim young. So my wife always started with my kids at 18 months.
Oh yeah.
And it's just hard to watch at the beginning, man, because they just like they let them go.
I grew up in the
When I
water.
say it's hard to watch at the beginning, it's hard to watch with the first one. By the second and third, you can
I got
do it
it.
yourself.
I think last year we went to the beach. It was like her first beach experience. So it's like, and I'm watching it, I'm Mo with his, woo-woo. So I'm watching the water go and it touches her hands. It's like, oh, that's such a magical experience. Okay, it's wonderful. And then the third wave comes and pops her in her face and then she's crying. I'm like, oh crap, I screwed it up again. But no, the kid is crazy about the water. And yeah.
So we got here talking a little bit about the community that exists, that a lot of the reason people come to these kind of things. And I would imagine if you ask people why they're coming to a retreat, or maybe not, if you ask people, I know without dumb, I ask you, like, what did you get most from it? Like, what was not immediately afterwards. Immediately afterwards, maybe there's some sort of high, there's something. Okay, 3 or 4 months later, 6 months later, what's changed in your life? And usually the answer is my relationships, right? That they were at that space, in that place, I developed relationships that I haven't had before because I saw a part of them. I saw a part of other people that I don't usually get to see. We're always with the masks, and not that there aren't masks there, but here we took a few off. And then both did, right? This person, the person themselves said, I've taken a few off and I felt accepted. And then I saw someone else in that way. And then relationships form. So that to me it's also community.
I remember there was a client who his process for a nice amount of time was just allowing himself to exist. And whether it was in his first marriage, whether it was with his mother, whether it was with his parents, and once he actually allowed whether it's all of himself to exist or parts of himself to exist, and sometimes we learn how to do that in these spaces, and just breathe into it and allow it and give it a sound.
What do you mean by that term? What do you mean allow ourselves to exist? What do you mean?
So in the Hineni model, all right, day one is I have a vulnerability that I would like to acknowledge. Like, what's a vulnerability that I'd like to acknowledge? And vulnerability, there's, by definition, literally by definition, there's a possibility of me being hurt, and it's something that I'm sensitive around sharing. Why? Because there's a possibility that somebody could poke at it. So to step into that vulnerability. Day 2 is really about how do I accept myself with that vulnerability. So once I have this part that exists, that maybe I've been throwing it into a corner, maybe I have just been like drinking it away or smoking it away or just denying the fact that it exists because, who wants to look at it? How do I start bringing it into light? And around people who, can all put their own trophy. They all have their own trophy case of vulnerability, of stuff that they want to acknowledge, stuff that they don't. So all of us are in it. And then it's learning, how do I accept myself with that? How do I accept that it exists? And how can I trust myself even as that part exists? So there's a sense of agency that winds up being cultivated when parts of me that I don't normally allow to the world to see are allowed to be. And again, it sounds cute, but where if a guy's allowed to exist with his anger, or allowed to exist with his power, or allowed to exist with his grief, or around his frustration, or around his fears, around his daughter, or around his wife, around his business, it's like, wait a second, now I can move. So much of what's keeping me in this masculine cage or box that many men find themselves in, I know I do, is that I think I'm alone in it. I think I'm alone in it, but the reality of it is you're not. You're not. And when I could call a spade, and like, okay, what needs to be accepted about myself with it, what it needs to be let go of. Once I start to
So
write,
this is day 2.
day 2 is acceptance and trust.
Day 3.
Day 3 is letting go. Just letting go and allow. Like once I'm pivoting out of this, I can accept myself and I can get back in touch with my I, with my essential self. Not only the I that's feeling the feelings, but the real I, or more of that sense of I, and double down on that sense of trust. Then what can I let go of? Then what entanglements am I really holding on to? What needs to be fleshed out?
So what might be an example? Because I'm not sure I'm clear on the difference between acceptance and letting go.
So acceptance would be, how can I receive something as if it's enough and accept that it exists? I can accept that I have that. And then I could let go, might be letting go of my need to change it, or my need to fix myself out of it. Or letting go would be, my wife looks the way she looks or acts the way she acts when, the kids are yelling at 8 o'clock.
Let's give a practical example because I think it'll be easier to understand. So vulnerability, was the vulnerability that I shared possibly helpful? Meaning a vulnerability and feeling like I need something from someone else. That's a vulnerability for me. Or that was like at that retreat, that being in that space of I need something from someone else, that's a vulnerability.
So when you think that you need something from somebody else, how does it feel?
Take me through the day. So if I said on day 1, we're sitting around and I say, right, this is one that like I had mentioned that came up and not dumb up close to a year ago, right? Like recognizing that the rage against an internal need or expressing a need or feeling a need. So let's say I'm sitting in that circle, day 1, and you say, like, what's a vulnerability that you're willing to step into?
So I'd unwrap the vulnerability through a process called the 4 quarters, and some people call it making distinctions, which is really just making the distinctions of what's the data, what's the thinking, what's the feeling, what's the desire. What's the data? What's going on? What are you thinking about the circumstance? What's your interpretation of it? And what's the feeling when you're thinking those thoughts around that data that's happening? And what do you really want when you're feeling that? And again, because it's a breathwork retreat, we'll step into that vulnerability and make some space. These are the thoughts that I'm thinking.
But this would be an example of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
day 2,
and
let's say acceptance around this thing.
So you would make space for that, and then you would come out with an intention for a breathwork, and then you would breathe on it.
Understood.
And then the next day would come into acceptance. So what's something that I want to step into acceptance with?
Oh, could be a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
fine.
It's
Okay,
learning
good. I'm glad
how to be vulnerable. It's learning how to be accepting.
Okay, understood.
It's
So I'm
learning
glad I
how
asked.
to be trusting.
So I'm glad I asked for the example because I thought we're taking like one theme of something. So no,
No,
yeah.
it's not. It's
Okay.
not. It's not the one. It doesn't always have to be the one thing. It's like, and then it's like, how can I accept myself with my people pleaser? A vulnerability maybe is that my people pleaser. Now I could go and take it apart. Then I could learn how to be accepting myself even when I have that part, or accept myself even when that part's not the one that I'm showing people.
Yeah.
So
or
it's
right, but it could be something else. I mean, the first day could be vulnerability around people pleaser. The second, almost everyone I've met, if we're being honest, has a body part or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 that they hate.
You think?
Right, it's not being to be able to accept that.
Yeah, and then we would start with, to do acceptance, you do a little bit of Byron Katie. If you ever did a breathwork process, I'm giving away trade secrets, and why the hell not? But to do a breathwork process, but before the breathwork process, do a Byron Katie sheet. You know what Byron?
Yeah, I love her work.
So it's like,
I love her work.
So it's like actually come out with an intention after doing the turnarounds, after doing 4 turnarounds, and then breathe on them. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, it's like people wonder how breathwork could be psychedelic. I mean, that's just what it is. It's like actually breathing into a space where turnarounds are possible. So,
so you'll do the Byron Katie, the work, what she calls the work. And
that's
then right
the work,
that,
by the way.
Yeah, the work.
That's the work.
Yeah, when someone's stuck on to this day, I encountered Byron Katie's work maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And I was already in 12-step work, and 12-step dealt with resentments and anger, but there was not like the simplicity, the clarity of her work. I got hooked, like watching YouTube videos of her taking people through her process. Just incredible. You can, just like completely free someone. To this day, when someone calls me, and I feel that, I don't know, like a resentment that, like resentment is what, like resentiment,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm re-feeling, but it's not a resentment. It's like a
Hmm.
like a million times
Correct.
resentment. Like I've felt this so many times, and very someone doesn't have to like go like, you got to check out the work, Baron Katie.
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay, so
So
after this,
after
you'll
that, so they do a whole thing around acceptance through a Byron Katie work. So it's now they're, it's a space. So it's like now they're like really cooking. They're like, okay, something's shifting. What is, not everybody's going to know. You're always going to journal after your breath works. You're always going to be like checking with the takeaways. Next is going to be trust, where it's like, okay, fine. After somebody's vulnerable and their acceptance, well, what the hell are they supposed to do? So I really speak about trust, how being in the masculine, being a man, you're always going to come back to that same I. It just is. It's like the same I that's choosing to act out, or the same I that's choosing to go to a meeting, or the I that's choosing to come to a workshop or work on your business or the Excel sheet or do whatever the hell, is the same I. So it's like, how do I refine my relationship to that I? Because that's the I that's accepting. That's the I that's stepping into that feeling. So I give them 5 affirmations to say 5 times a day for 30 days. I got that from Richard Graman's Spartan Life Coaching. I did a process about 4 or 5 years ago around healing the superego, where it was, how do I, like that fragmented sense of self? And, this is the good stuff of a podcast. It's like that fragmented sense of self. How do I start healing it? That part of me that always sees the duality and always sees the split, and it's so aggravating. How do I like hack the system and come back? Especially somebody with CPTSD symptoms that are going through those loops. How do I stop it? So the first affirmation is, I am stopping the negative thought pattern. Yeah, I am stopping the negative thought pattern. Second one is, I am moving to a better state. So third is, I acknowledge my emotions, and you acknowledge 3 emotions. Fourth is, I am there for myself so I can be there for others. And the fifth is, I own myself. So the intention behind it is, how do I come back to that I? And I have no idea where these people are going.
so these affirmations you're giving to everyone the same affirmation.
The same affirmation, it's a process. It's a
Yes.
process by way of affirmations. So they call it declarations, and you have wonderful Hasidim who put like AI pictures to each one of them, and they have some reels going on, and like whatever. Like I love the creativity. You love the community. I love the community, but I love the creativity that comes out of these things. The creativity and the expression that comes out of these workshops. Like, whoa. Like, because I could never have thought of that. I could never have dreamed of that. And then what happens when somebody is open is, it's such a sincere gift. It's the creativity that I marvel at. That's Hashem's gift.
Right.
So
What I was referring to as love, I love watching people grow and people evolve and just see that,
yeah,
aspect of their journey. I share like Mayor doing the breath work, or Avi Wolf, right, who's the rabbi now at the House of Moore, and then just having a flash in my head of the first conversation I had with him, where I was, where he was, kind of both in 12-step work at that time, and then fast forward, he's a rabbi in the House of Moore. Just to see that, and it's those steps along the way. Yeah, the greatest gift. I think it's the greatest privilege I have in my life is to have the front row seat to a lot of those processes. That's what I was saying. I love the community aspect. It's actually very new to me, both through Adama and the House of Moore. My friend Danny Resnick, who's been on this podcast a number of times. There are times where I refer to him as a teacher because I feel like I learned many things from Daniel Resnick. You met him tonight quickly at the House of Moore.
I would love to get to know him more.
Yeah,
He seems so like calm. Like, teach me some of that.
So he said to me, I told him one day, I was talking to him, I said, I'm working on the House of Moore. And he said, the House of Moore is working on you. And there are many places I can go with that, but in one way is the aspect of community, meaning it was something that I didn't acknowledge the importance of. I didn't. My wife spoke about it often, but I was like, okay. Even when I moved here to Southwest Ranches, I was like, I don't need anyone. I'm fine over here. I'm fine with my family. I'll bring friends once in a while, but I don't feel like I need anyone.
So I remember I remember the dating coach when I was dating. I was single for a minute.
Is the dating coach referring to a specific person, or just like a dating coach you worked with?
Her
It's
name.
not someone who goes by the name the dating coach.
No. Oh God,
Okay,
no.
okay, yeah.
She would never.
Okay.
um,
If you want to mention her name, if it could be helpful to someone, by all means, you never know.
Her name was Toby Klein, and she's Mendy Klein's wife, who's also a breathwork facilitator. But she said that I was asking her about a relationship that I was in, and she said two things. Two things that were so profoundly true. One is that at the end of the day, you're really going to be talking about diapers and formula, like that when the rubber hits the road, it's really going to be like that's going to be the conversation. And the other end of the conversation was when I said something in terms of, well, I don't need community. Like I'm good. Like
Right.
I'm the oldest. Like I'm the oldest. I'm the child of oldest. And anybody who knows, like an oldest kid, like really learns how to, like I'll do it alone. It's better for me to do it alone because another person's just going to get in the way. She said, yeah, you might not need community, but your kids are going to need community. And I heard that, and I was like, like okay, like this she said something. So yeah, for me, it's like part. I have no. One of the.
Did you mean your kids as in your inner child, or your kids?
No,
as
my
in
actual kids.
Your actual kids.
My actual kids. My actual kids. And she's right. I see it in my kids. Like she wants friends. She wants
100%.
to do things, and like it's true. It's true. Yeah. So anyway, we do that trust, and we'll do either a breath work outside or a Wim Hof into that. And letting go is like, okay, fine. Now that we've done that, those building blocks, what needs to be let go from? And sometimes letting go is letting go of, a rock into a lake of like, tunk, and sometimes it's letting go of a balloon. And, letting go could be just simply letting go.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of Shabbos with, we do it with breathwork on Shabbos after like 4 or 5 family constellations. So no music. So it's pretty cool. I find it to be cool. And then that night is another one, just a real closing of bringing the parts together and meaning really, really sacred parts of yourself, quite kind of ceremonial, I may say. And the last day is surrender. Surrender is I really got from Peterson's work of how do I Jordan Peterson's work of how do I really put a sense of hope into the future, and it really aligns with the Ramchal's work of kivoy and tikva, and like how do I actually move forward, not in a sense of my own limited frameworks and way of thinking, but chances are my salvation is going to be coming in from the unknown, not from the known. If it was coming in from the known, it probably would have been here already, but my more is really in the unknown.
Right.
So to surrender into the more. And it's people hear that, and usually surrender is not with a white flag. Surrender is really just how do I dive into the deep end of the pool to see what else can come. And we breathe into a miracle. And then some pretty cool stuff happens afterwards. Whatever happens, but some pretty cool stuff. So thanks for asking about it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I asked. I didn't understand it. Until you went into the examples, I didn't understand it. I didn't, because right. It can sound like one thing. It can sound like similar: acceptance, letting go, surrender, right? There's similar words, but breaking it down.
So for me, I really I needed to figure out how to put words to things. Just from my own personality, my inner world winds up being really rich, and when the second I can map something, it's there's a sense of pleasure in being able to to know that this belongs to that, and to categorize and make sense of things. Like that's right. So, and to find out that some people are also looking for that is like, oh, okay, fine. So it's actually interesting.
Right. I'm still thinking about your reaction to community. I'm still thinking about that.
Okay, let's put it. I came to the workshop world because I was trying to heal. because I was traumatized and because my therapist said that it was something good. So there was this sincere sense of brokenness. My community was my people back home in Brooklyn, the people that my parents are a part of. Like that's how I categorize community.
And today?
I would still, I have a group of friends. I have a group of friends from workshop spaces, but I would not, I may get myself in trouble. Like I know it's communal, but like this is my community. Who am I to say this is my community?
Oh, right.
Who am I to call it a community? I just put all the Hineni chats under a community on WhatsApp because some people have said that it's a little bit, that'll be logistically simpler. But community is the last name. It's not the first name. That's how I found it. And
right.
That's how it was imprinted on me.
I mean,
it's interesting for you because you're coming from Crown Heights and Chabad, and like I see that. I personally see that as a community.
Yeah,
that
for
is
sure.
A community.
Yeah. No, and I ran from community, and then here we're building a community, and I wasn't. I wasn't expecting this with either. That's what I'm saying. Like it's something that I've been bumping into with my life. But what you're saying is interesting about. You said Toby Klein, her name is the dating coach, where she said like your kids are going to need community, and which meant that when we were kids we needed it, obviously.
So I think she also meant, now that I'm remembering it, it's like maybe she meant like I'm going to want my kids to have community, and I do.
Yeah, but I was thinking the way we'll typically define community is actually that is who am I raising my family with? Like that's my community. Right? Who am I raising my family? Like our kids are friends, we're friends, and what makes us? What's the common denominator? It's like our families come together, and slowly over here in our little community, we're building a community.
I mean, it's fantastic and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it may use for Adama. We'll typically use the word maybe like a brotherhood versus community. Right, community definitely has different connotations. So I get what you're saying.
So I remember with Journey to Home, which we did for 7 years, with Adam, with Nachman, with Fali, all of it. They called it a community. Like many people would call that a community, and it's something that took on a life of its own. It's like it's amazing what happens when parts of one person sing to the parts of another person, and they form their own connection. That has nothing to do with me as the harbinger of the space or as one of the facilitators or founders of the.
No, it's way beyond.
We've been talking that long.
How do you know how long it is? It's way beyond that.
Yeah,
it's way beyond.
It's way beyond that, and it's not mine.
Yes,
it's mamash not mine. So it's like kol hakavod and do with it as you will, and may you see Shechina all over the place. May God shine His light on His blessed light on you always. So it's like it's very cool.
It feels like maybe who was I speaking with once who said that scrolling up should be a love language, right? Which scrolling up would be like going back to an earlier part of a conversation, right? Like scrolling up. Maybe she said it. I think it was she said like scrolling up is my love, like one of my love languages. Okay, meaning I guess it suggests a form of listening to the other person and wanting to know more. So okay, like let me go back to an earlier part of the conversation, something you said, and let me pull at that thread a little bit. So it still felt like a lot of rawness around the molestation, around the abuse, around the way.
So it's
you were hurt.
So I'm working on it real time. There's a nuance to it that maybe it's just new to me, and people have known this nuance for a while. But it really winds up being profound, the effect on the psyche of
sexual abuse.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we're releasing a podcast this week with a woman named Basi K. I don't remember her last name. Basi Cutton. Released a podcast. We'll be releasing it recorded, and just she spoke specifically about incest, which there are 200 people who've spoken publicly about that. But so just we discussed at length just how profoundly life altering sexual abuse.
Yeah, it's not. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even I'm not trying to say it's like, I'm sure there it's not the worst thing that has ever happened to me, but it is definitely, it's a part of the software that makes me up. It's like, it's a part of how I see the world. It's part of how I saw the world, and being able to do work and extricating that and learning it, and then just putting distance, and then stepping away from needing to work on it for intensely, and then coming back to that intense work. It comes up again. I thought I was done. I thought I was done.
Right.
I don't know if you've like, I don't, I can't speak for somebody else's experience, but sometimes I thought it was done, and then I create a space where, like, well, maybe there's more. Maybe there's more parts of my soul that are hiding, that I may be more if I reveal them.
Right.
So, and does it mean that it's dark? Yeah, but it's like, how can I love myself enough to love myself there more? It's difficult. It's difficult because I see where I see where I'm doing it myself, and I see where I'm getting in my own way.
So you thought you were done healing from the sexual abuse until when? Is something recent that's
No,
emerged?
until I saw a YouTube podcast that sang to me, and I said, you know what, I want to work with that guy, and I picked up the phone and I called that guy, and I started seeing that guy, and so it wasn't like I was ready to make a call. Like, it wasn't
And
like
this is
my
3 months
life.
ago, 6 months ago, 3 years ago.
This particular one can't happen 6 months ago,
Got it.
and then
Okay, and
other
that kind
times
of
happened 2 years ago, and
that kind of threw you back into the work.
it threw me back into the intimacy of the work
No,
until
I mean it threw you back into the work related to sexual abuse.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Got it.
yeah. I can't look at the, like, certain dysfunctions in my life without looking at how my innocence was poked. I can't look at, myself succeeding in certain areas of my life without actually reconciling the places where I've stamped down and doubled down on, that there's something wrong with me. And so that's, and yeah, it's one thing to go to a workshop and there's nothing wrong with me, and like feel that and go into that, and then it's like, wait a second, this is like that layer, this is that layer, and this is that layer. It's like, okay, how do I love myself between the workshops and between the ceremonies? And
Right. Yeah, I mean it's interesting to feel the rawness of it off of you. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like the rawness
yeah,
of the pain.
it's surprising to me too.
Yeah.
It's surprising to me too, but I'm not like,
It's a beautiful thing.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
It's something that I'm very, it's interesting. Like, I'm not really talking to my friends about it, but I'll talk to my wife about it. But like, now I'm talking to you about it, and particularly because, it's more. There's more to the conversation.
I had a ayahuasca experience a couple of years ago, and somehow like the thought came up during it was like, wow, like I've never gone through anything with the abuse on ayahuasca,
Mhm.
you know, and or on any medicine. Like it's never come up for me, and I was like, okay, like maybe I'm good, maybe it's done, maybe I'm good, and then it really like twisted me into one of these things, like sure, and I don't remember exactly what happened next, but I remember, like at some point in time, it was a torturous part of the ceremony. Which, when I describe it, it's not going to be clear why it was so torturous. But it was. I was actually the in this particular ceremony, the shaman asked me to. So that it was an individual who, it was like a one-person ceremony,
Mhm.
and I was asked to be in the ceremony, kind of to help out, like to.
Mhm.
He was comfortable with me being there. The shaman only had a female helper. I was like, okay, fine, I'll go in this kind of quasi role. I've never done it before, but okay. So at a particular time, I was walking in the space, right, which is not typical in a ceremony. Here, I was walking around because at different points I was helping out, whatever that
And you
means.
drank.
Yeah, helping out, and then I'd only done that twice, and the first one, the medicine had me lying down. Like what my experience was, and the first time I did that was, okay, like I'm going to let you loose for a minute, and I'm going
Mhm.
to teach you a lesson. Right. So it's like, go, okay, it's like, come back. Let me show you what you did wrong.
Mhm.
And like for 6 hours of that, okay, like go here. Okay, you notice that? Look what you did. Come back. And over and over. And the second one, it kind of gave me a longer leash
Mhm.
to go out and do some things. And then that thought started coming up at some point during the sexual abuse. And then I don't remember exactly, actually, but at some point I was lying on the beer floor, not on my mat, or anything, like lying on the beer floor. And where I was in my head was in my bed, lying peacefully, and my wife was caressing my back. And just sitting there receiving that was torturous, like
Mhm.
absolutely torturous. Just, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm just receiving in a very calm, nurturing way. And I was like, I can't take this. I can't take this. And the medicine's like, no, you're sitting, like, sitting right here, sitting through this. I feel like someone listening will think I'm exaggerating. It was pure pain,
I
pure pain. And and the message afterwards is like, you see that, like that difficulty you have sitting still and just receiving love, non-sexual love, non-needy love, nothing, just like pure, you're okay. The day is over. You're fine. Your back can be caressed, and there's nothing anyone is receiving or getting or you're giving or return. It's nothing. It's just that. And it's like, I still don't understand the link. I still, to this day, I don't understand the link. But it's like that's difficult because of what happened then. Like the abuse affected that.
So, thank you, thank you for that. That was very, I think that's just very real, and it's that ability, that thing. For me, it was thinking that it needed to come a certain way, that love needed to come a certain way, and that being satisfied by the contortion to a point where allowing myself to surrender. And it's interesting because a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, would say, "What's the difference between letting go and surrender?" And he's like, "Letting go you do in the bathroom, and surrender you do in the bedroom." So,
Okay.
so I was
I'm
like,
listening.
I don't know, what were you
Yeah,
thinking?
no, I'm listening. Good one. No, it's memorable.
Well, I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
it, so that's
Yeah.
what helped. So I think the ability to receive, the ability to accept and receive, um, it's it takes a vessel. It takes a vessel of light to be able to receive the light. And if I'm thinking that I'm not that, or if I'm thinking that I need to do something in order to be that vessel, in order to hold that light, then, is it true? Is it true that I need to be that person in order to be that husband? Because it could be she sees me for everything that I am and more anyway. So, I think that's the biggest gift of this adventure, is like, can I find my more there? And like, if I have to dig there in order to find my more here, then
Say that.
if I have to
Say
dig,
that more clearly.
if I have
Where's
to,
there? Where's here?
exactly. um, uh, the gift of reclaiming parts of myself, um, is is seeing just how much those parts were always received. It's waking up to the fact that whatever I wanted is really already here. So it's like it's taking a breath into that. It's like we sing Shema at night. So it's like, wait a second. So there's nowhere else I'd rather be than here. It's like that Hamal Hagoah is like the thing, the thing, the thing. Her on my shoulders is like the thing. It's not just it's like, this is what I've been working for. So if I have to do some plumbing, for an X amount of time a week in order to be able to be more here, then, uh, Simcha from Shofar used to say, "Is like, do you have anything else better to do?" Like, and those moments I don't. And those moments, being there is that experience of enough, and being in those experiences with my wife is enough. And it's like, every time the medicine for a good minute was telling me, you see this letting go, and it would like play it in my ear. You see that sensual, peaceful part of quiet, like that's accessible. Like that's accessible. You don't need me in order to have that. You've forgotten it so much, so you think you do, but like that is there. That is there on your pillow, and Yeah, that's my more. That's something that I'd love some more of.
I shared this before. You know the work of David Hawkins?
Sure.
So he says, I think it's actually in his book on surrender, letting go, book called Letting Go. So he says that, early in our life, our self-worth comes from what we have.
Mm-hmm.
As we progress, it's from what we do. And as we progress even further, it's just from the state, from the state of being. So there's having, doing, and being. And I was thinking just now, as we're talking of that connection between like this being, right? Because that's like, if I look at myself today, a lot of my worth and value comes from doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly feels like a progress over where my life once was, where I took the value in state of having. Like the amount of people I know, and I've been there, and I've had the privilege of hearing people's thoughts in this regard also, where someone offends them or someone slights them, and their reaction is something to the effect of, in their mind, I have more money than you, right? Meaning as if that does something, right? Or one person shared with me that he has a complex over a particular, body part. And someone, as it happens, just made a joke about that body part. And he's like, yeah, each of that, it was breasts, okay? Man boobs. Someone made it. And he's like, yeah, each one are worth millions. Like in his mind, right? Each one, right? Each one was like, meaning, and what I'm saying
It's not
is,
wrong.
what?
It's not wrong.
Right, like in his mind, that was his reaction to it. And what that is, it may sound trivial, right? But in some way, the self-worth that someone is attaching, that one is attaching themselves to, is something they have, right? And it doesn't always mean financial. Financial is a very what is it called? Like is one way, like a very coarse way, but another, some people get off on their title, right? Like I am a doctor, like I have that title. I am a lawyer, I have that title. I am a teacher, or even I have knowledge. I know all this stuff, and I have it in some way. And then I think, and I was steeped in that, very, very much steeped in that. And I don't feel that today. I mean, it's beautiful what I have, and I love what I have, and it's everything, but I don't feel like it's where my self-worth comes from. But where I do feel it today very much is in the doing. Like, okay, so what do I do? How do I spend my time? How am I useful? And you used that a couple of times also early in the podcast, where you spoke about like us having a conversation. Is it useful? Is it useful to someone else? Right? Is this of use to someone else? And then just seeing the progress in that stage. Okay, like this is so much better than, in my case, like where I once was, tying myself to a net worth or what I have, and now being able to say, no, I take value in what I do and how I show up and where, and that, but also recognizing that there's a lot of runway left to get into a place of be. And then I was thinking about the word be and then the word belonging. And it was like, in that space of belonging, in the space of community, do we get to be for a long time?
So is it so the question is, if I'm belonging, is that a place where I'm allowed to be?
To be.
And I think, there's so much that you shared, but I'm going back to like the stroking of the back and it being painful and being able to receive.
You're scrolling up. Thank you. Love receipts.
Scrolling up. Be kind, rewind. Like I'm like, it's good when you're able to do that. The Zohar says that, I think I got it from the Zohar. I got it from the Rebbe that said it from the Zohar, that the real magic of not magic, but the koach of a yichud, of intimacy, of the oneness. There's a oneness at the time of oneness, and then there's a oneness that's right after the oneness, and there is a deep sense of menucha, of rest, that takes place in the yichud that's after the yichud, meaning in the what you would call the refractory period, or in the after the deed is done, if you will, and being able to be
Okay,
in that
that's what
space
like
together.
you're talking about. Okay, in sexuality.
In sexuality, yeah. in the
Right. There's
bedroom.
a certain. Oh, got it. So after the yichud within sex, like the union within a
after
sexual
the
intimacy.
union of sexual intimacy, there is a menucha that comes afterwards, and that menucha itself is a yichud. So that's something that came to me. Like, it's not just it's also just deeply, deeply found in our culture. This idea of being able to hold that oneness and rest in that oneness and be in that oneness. So that's just
Yeah, there's a beautiful parallel between the state of bliss in the act of doing, right? Having sex, right? In the state of doing. And I'm talking in an intimate way, right? Like in that beautiful way. I wasn't in any case. Yeah. So there's that state of doing, there's a bliss that's in that state of doing.
There's that state of being.
And then there's a state of, and then you're saying like afterwards, the state of menucha is that bliss from the state of being. And maybe that's what we're talking about.
It's interesting because what I notice, I don't know if you notice, but like there are people that know that rest in that space between spaces, that I'm on the way and I'm already there. And you'll see that in medicine circles, and you'll see that, and it's always very meaningful and sweet to find a brother in that, to find a fellow in that, to find another human in that, where they appreciate that, that sense of knowing, that knowing of wanting more, of doing, of. I have another friend that said, just keep on chopping wood, and just ironically enough, he has a workshop called B, so putting that plug out. And then there's resting in that. So yeah. Miami, man, it like, it really lets me be, and I'll tantrum about it until I settle into it.
Oh, right. Okay. The tantrum about it. I understand right. Shabbos definitely has that aspect to it, but there are levels to it. There are levels to being. But what's neat about it, it's not so much, I'm talking to myself as I'm saying this, meaning the moving to a state of getting self-worth from doing didn't eliminate the having. Meaning one can still have, and one may actually have at that stage when so much is not tied up to it. We say make the money, don't let the money make you. Right? So it's like there's a way to have it without being had by it. And or whatever that is. If someone has a title, but if they lose a title, they're devastated. Then you don't have the title has you. So and then I guess I imagine the same, someone who steps into being, then it frees up all sorts of doing in a completely different way. It's not that doing disappears. It's just not attached to self-worth anymore.
Because it's not you. It's not the you that's doing it anymore. It's not about you. It's just the fact that it's done and being in that experience of it done. So it's like when I think I hear, I think I understand.
Yeah, maybe that's what this conversation is. That's what this Verbringen is about.
So it's officially Verbringen also. Yeah. Breathwork.
What?
Breathwork. Who would have known? Who would have known?
Would have known what?
What? You know what? I'm gifted with a sense of perspective where I remember when it, like, workshops were this weird thing where ayahuasca was spoken about, in different corners. So it's like, not to see it so around and available. It's very interesting. I think before when I met you, your son, when we were at the House of More, your son messaged you. He's like, "Oh, are you in the ceremony house?" And I'm thinking in my head, because like my kid knows my handpan and my kid knows my rattles, and like again, not because I'm Mr. Shaman, but because like, okay, I have a rattle in my head. My kid's going to play with it. She just will. And I'm wondering, like, what would it be like? Are you in the ceremony room? Like, what is that?
Yeah, that's what they don't call it the House of More, because before the House of More was the House of More,
it was
a ceremony house, right? Like,
cool.
Meaning over there. So there was, hey, I'm going to do breath work, going to do a sweat lodge. Meaning before it had an actual name.
It was a ceremony house.
Or even if I was doing a retreat, like, what am I doing? So for whatever reason, the word ceremony stuck with my kids. And then before the house was officially named the House of More, it was named the Ceremony House. So they still call it that.
So Can I ask something? So
Yeah.
so do your kids know what the word ayahuasca is?
Um, Good question. So
I don't mean to
probably.
pry. I'm just,
No,
again,
probably. Certainly, my oldest one knows what it is. Now it's less an immediate part of my life.
hmm
Um, right now, it's been a couple of years since I've done ayahuasca, so it's less an immediate part of my life. But then certainly, yeah, then certainly,
cool.
and I mean, rape. All my kids have served me rape.
Mm.
Something nice about that.
I had once an 11-year-old who just had his bar mitzvah. He served me rape once, and it was definitely a beautiful serve. It was definitely meaningful.
And then, I mean, in terms of other stuff, we certainly try to introduce it. Yeah, um, it's not something that's viewed with. No, it's viewed with a tremendous amount of pride. Often I say, so I'm going to when we have retreats. So I mean, you saw the House of Moore is fairly close to my home, so I'll come back in the evenings, and kind of go back and forth during the day. Sometimes I'll take them, depending on what's going on. Then, like maybe I'll take them for an hour or two. Usually on the last day, I'll take one of them, and what I'll often say, like when I'm doing the work, is I'm going to be a better dad. Like I'm going to learn how to be a better dad. So I don't think there's it's certainly done with a tremendous amount of pride, and I think that they'll likely I would want them to likely appreciate these kind of things. Someone should learn breath work and all these things. God willing, we'll be in a space where we don't need medicine. I mean, there's no question it's medicine, right? Like we call it medicine, right? We understand it's medicine because we're unwell, right? Like God willing, they won't need medicine, but if they do,
there.
It's there.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Yeah. I think for the way it's like there's this book from Hineni where somebody from the staff put together like all these pictures and has like one of these flip books on my coffee desk. It's my kid's favorite book where she'll just flip through it, and then she'll have the rattle, she'll have the chime, she'll have the hand pen, and I'm like, what happens if I just hold a frequency? Again, I'm not perfect, not by a long shot, but what if I just hold this frequency of we're on the way and we're already there. We're on the way and we're already there, and it's okay and you're okay, and I'm really curious. I'm really curious what this next generation is going to be. Like your kids, my kids, their kids. It's like where this thing is going, and
Well, they'll still think we're jackasses.
we are. Don't ever think that we're
Right,
not.
yeah.
No, we are. No. I am very secure in my. I am a card carrying. Yeah, I'm card carrying. I'm card carrying, and if you think I'm not, just give me time. I'll prove it to you. But yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I'll bring you to a different
Please.
experience that I once had, and I was in a ceremony space, and I stepped outside in nature, like on grass, and it was difficult. Like it was one of those ceremonies, just like getting hammered, And right, like, it's like I'm on my hands and knees, like, man, this is so freaking hard. It's so freaking difficult. It's like there's so much pain. The only thing you can do is laugh almost. Like, wow, this is crazy. And then I was thinking, my kids will never know. Like, they'll never know what I did to get here. Like, even if they hear, they'll never understand what I did to get to a space of being able to, like what you witnessed before, like just that. They'll never understand the work that it took to get to a space that I can be that way with them or be that way with the situation. Impossible. They'll never know. And then the next thought was like, what if I don't know? Meaning, what if I don't know what my parents did to get to that place that they are, right? And then for me to point back and say, oh, but it's not far enough, right? It's not far enough. Essentially, what we're saying to a lot of our parents is like, you're not here, you're not there, whatever, whatever our complaints even if it comes in the form of hurt, right? Why did I have to experience this? Why did I have to experience that? But there was a sense of like, how do I know? Their starting point, who is it who said that their ceiling becomes our floor, our parents' ceiling becomes our floor?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we know? How do we know what they did to to get to that ceiling?
So in family constellations, there's something called the orders of love, where it's like there's certain hierarchies that always exist, whether it's the ancestral, whether it's the grandparents, or whether it's the parents. And then there's the oldest sibling, youngest sibling, and all the middle. And we know in Chassidus and Kabbalah, we have the grandfather, we have Abba, Ima,
Mm-hmm.
Zaya. So we all have all the different parts of him and the permutations of those parts of him. The reality of it is that we're not going to know. There's a certain deep respect and honoring in us knowing them, never knowing them in the particular. We can know them in the different in the different
Yes.
generalities and the klalim and the fact that we're both parents. But like he'll never know. In the same way, he's never going to know what's going on in my in my head. And I think the biggest gifts in my life has been growing in accepting their humanity. And as I'm accepting their humanity, I'm accepting my humanity. It's like here's just another human trying to put one foot in front of the other. And yes, there's plenty of parts of me that that look at my father as God, and look at my father as the hero, as the invincible person, and then also sometimes the tyrant. So and that's up to me. But on the basic human fundamental level, like I have no idea. My mother. My mother on Motzei Shabbos, she wanted me to tell the story because, let everybody know, and that way they don't give the evil eye. Like, she fell on Motzei Shabbos, broke 4 ribs.
Just recently.
Just yeah, literally. No.
5 days ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she spent the last 3-4 days in the hospital. It's extremely painful. Everybody got scared and shook because, nothing happens to mommy. She's the one that keeps on going, and all of a sudden, with the fall and a slip of a slipper, she's out, and she broke 3 ribs, and ribs through 6 through 10. And I was there. And they told me, get the hell out of here. There's nothing for you to do here. Go to Miami and spend time with your family, which I'm very, very grateful for. I'm never going to know her pain. I don't. Part of the signing of the agreement to come down here and Be'etzav Tildi Banim it's going to be painful to raise children is the fact that they're never going to know my internal experience. And when I, in a sense, allowed and surrendered and accepted that, wait a second, that part of me that's always wanting to be understood in that way, that's never going to happen. And by design, it's never going to happen because I'm never going to understand them either. They'll understand me in all the other ways.
Are you saying it's specifically to parent and child, or just 2 human beings?
I think it's human beings. I think nothing is going to show it to me like parent and child, which is why we have Kavet Avicha Be'atimecha as one of the 10.
Why?
And that's why, because because the orders of love are fundamental to our existence. It's knowing where we are in relationship to that which came before and that which comes after. And knowing our place and our space is going to open up our more. That is why once I know my space in the circle in my life, in the constellation, then things open. And, I can't, and practically, I can't work on Abba with, and I can't mismatch the avodas. It's separate avodas. There's the avodas of father. There's the avodas of husband. There's the avodas of man. There's the avodas of provider. And yes, I hold all those hats. But anyways, that's a long-winded way of saying, no, I'm never going to get it. And that's by design. And that's the beautiful part of the design.
Yes.
But I think when I was talking to Dove is that when I realized that where I'm as old as my father, as when I started judging him, when I was 10, 12 or whatever, like, well, what the hell do I know?
Right.
What the hell do I know? I'm this yutz that's trying to put one foot in front of the other, and chances are he wasn't that much different. But he was 100% smarter than me because I just don't know the things that he happened to have known. But he was the guy trying to make it just as me. So it's, in a sense, it humanizes it. And for me, Judaism really puts us in a position where, again, obviously there are spaces where that just wasn't. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the heavy abuse. I'm not talking about where it's just inappropriate to be in contact. But in a general case, in general communal spaces, yeah, I'm never going to know my parents like that. I'm never going to know my grandparents' generation. And it's in that sacred space, therein lies the respect, because I don't know. That's why I'm commanded to respect them.
Interesting.
Uh, does that?
Yeah, I've had different. I had a thought once that like the word doesn't say respect, right? The word it says is the kibud kaved, right? Which also means weight.
Sure.
I think that many of us like we have a tendency to like discard the relationship. We make it meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saying like, no, give the relationship weight.
No, I
Like,
get 100%.
give-
There's a medicine song, "Humble Yourself in the Face of the Mother." It's not just talking about Aya. It's talking about your mother. There's a reason why that we use these archetypes as symbols for medicine. I'm one can try to get around it. It's just imprinted into the fabric of creation.
Right. And that was another thought that I had. There was a sense that I've had a lot of experiences around the importance of humility, the
Mhm.
role of humility, and how almost like nothing good can come to the world if nothing. I don't say good, nothing like everlasting, nothing like truly creative can come to the world if it doesn't come through uh, a channel of humility.
Mhm.
If not, it can be power, but it can be very destructive.
Mhm.
Like if we want to create something, and I'll give you an example of that. Like the most practical example is, I think it says Adam. Adam wasn't a male. That was not what he was before like the female
He was
came from his,
Afro, yeah.
right? Who's both, and then in that space, one can create all
Mhm.
by himself, meaning he could have created a child, theoretically speaking,
Okay.
all by himself.
Okay.
If he was male and female, then likely he could have birthed a child all by himself. And I think part of the reason to separate was say, no, you can't create it all by yourself.
So
And you need to give something and you need to develop that something, right? Two separate people so that each one, if they're thinking about it, may reach a level of humility and say, I can't do it alone, right? Meaning there's the fact that one person can't birth a child
mhm.
is indicative of, I think, something that's in other areas as well. It can't be birthed by one person. It needs two. And automatically humility is created.
Mhm.
Anyway, so an image I had for that, like almost like it's a man, right? In creation, in power, in doing, right? There's like imagine like the chest up, the
Mhm.
shoulders back, right? There's a lot of power in that posture.
Mhm.
And that's maybe a posture of creation,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm going to feel strong. Maybe sometimes you've had this experience in breathworks on medicine where you're taking up your full space.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes in medicine journeys or in journeys itself, it's like, wow, I am this size and I'm going to take up this size. And you feel like your fingers and your toes and your shoulders and your back. It's like, wow, the fullness of me, I'm going to fill that up. And oftentimes when someone is insecure, we see it in their posture.
Mhm.
They take up less space,
Mhm.
right? Maybe they curl their back or like hunch their back or their knees are close together or their arms are in, right? A sign of not so much confidence, but the posture that I saw was like chest up, powerful, moving forward, and then like the head down a little bit. And that weight that kind of pulled the head down just a little bit, just enough for there to be humility was like the weight of parental respect. That was kind of the image. Like what forces someone into that posture is like, yes, I can create. Yes, I can do these amazing things, but I do it with a posture of I came through, right? I came from
The-
someone, and that weight that pulls the head down so as not to get too full of ourselves is kabed. Kabed is
I love it. I think there's one of the many reasons two of the reasons why Adam was created on the sixth day, is one of them is because so everything is ready for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the entire world is yours, and it's like just go and take it. So it's like that's how I see that. Like, yeah, you could go out, and also don't forget that the mosquito was created before you. So they literally uses those words, and it's just like, wait, oh, like oh.
Right, both
So that
aspects.
so
Yeah,
that
that's a beautiful image,
so
right?
that perpetual is it's definitely healthy, and it's a part of the design.
Right, like the world existed before you.
Yes,
Right.
no, 100%. And I think,
Yeah.
and by design, like the way Kabbalah would say is that in the beginning they were ach ba'ach, they were back to back, and that they literally needed to individuate, they literally needed to split. Like God needed to create two of them, and then in order for them to get panim to panim, that they could actually see each other face to face, and not only see
Oh, got
face to face, but also eye to eye, and also, they're meeting the interior of the other person. Like I could sense the other person, if I'm standing back to back from them. I'm not seeing them. Yes, I could sense them. I could be in a relationship with them, but just practically, like you're not going to create anything with them back to back. Even with Zoom, like there's a certain panim b'panim in having conversations with people. So so yeah, I think that's integral to the creative process of being in a position where I could actually face someone and actually face creation as if creation's ready to face me
Right.
and be this partner.
Yeah, I should be clear. I feel the need to be clear. Oh, should is a good word. I think should be a 4-letter word, personally.
Stop shitting on yourself.
Right.
Stop shitting on yourself.
I feel the need to be clear that I'm far from there. Meaning, in terms of the relationship with my parents, it's far from where I aspire to be, and certainly with the Torah encourages us to be. So I wasn't coming from that place. I was simply sharing a.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're definitely talking about the aspirational, and that, like, especially if we're in a space where we're leading sacred space, where it's like it's not uncommon for people to experience different feelings around their parents.
Yes.
So it's just not uncommon, and sometimes we could be flippant with our expression of different feelings. So I think it's something I told my brother once, is that the mom that exists inside of your head is not the mom that's sitting on the couch. It's
Right.
just not the same person. It's like, I know I may be really committed to this version of her in your head, but it's just not her. And I think it's also up to a person to be willing to hear that.
Yes. That's actually interesting. Because we often say we'll project our parents onto other people, but now you're saying we're projecting
our own version of
our own
parents.
version of our parents on our parents. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's bring it all home. We spoke about many different things. Is there there's something that
So I think we've been smelling something in the air for a while, and you played in the Maloka, Hashem Yitbarach Tamid Ohev Oti V'Tamid Yeni Rak Tov, and Ana Hashem Oshiana, and I think that's just really, that's what I've been waking up with. That's really what I've been.
which part of that?
All of it. The Hashem Yitbarach Tamid Ohev Oti. Like
Right.
and sometimes for medicine, where you hear a song and you're going to find 4 different versions of it till you find the favorite version of it, and then you put on your Spotify playlist, and then every time you're in a car with somebody that's been through medicine one time per time, you're going to be like, we're hearing this song. That's a song. That's one of those songs that bring us back to that sense of that orientation, that place of trust and acceptance and vulnerability, that search for more hineni, or call it whatever it is, whatever variation of, we're all saying the same thing. So I think that's the beauty of conversations like this, because I listen for the common thread, and I'm grateful for it.
This is a common thread kind of through this conversation.
This conversation and conversations like this, and
Or even in terms of everything that happened leading up to it, even what wasn't on camera.
the ceremony before the ceremony.
Ceremony before the ceremony. Visit to the house some more. My kids visit here. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed what I said when they came. Right, I said I want them to hate the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I want them to, like, they hung out here for like 8 or 10 minutes until maybe a little longer. But I was thinking about that, like their association with it. It's like I disappear, and then just before they were going to sleep, but we sat down to record, and they came to visit for a few minutes, and they're okay if we just like, hey, we have to start, right? Then it's like, oh, I hate this, hate this thing. I hate when Dad does a podcast. Versus now, I think there's like a positive association, with it.
So like I that makes total sense to me. One question would be like, well, what if they do wind up hating the podcast? And another question is how do we keep on making it enjoyable for them? The fact that we or I have this insatiable search for more, and how do I balance that with showing up with them? And I think it's an important question to see, well, what are the barometers? Some people, their barometer is, well, how well are they davening, or how well they're learning, or how well are they showing up with their wife? But my kids will definitely show it to me, show me the
Yeah.
proof if
No,
if what's
100%.
working.
Yeah, I mean, kids definitely very, very humbling. There's more. I think we're able to access more humility there than in any other relationship. It's just, yeah. It's like, what if they did hate it? Yeah, and so from my perspective, yeah, that could be fine. It's more from the, but why should they? Like, why should they have an experience which they hate?
So something I learned along the way was, as long kids in broad strokes need love, safety, and belonging. So it's like if their love tank is getting filled, if their safety tank is, God willing, getting filled, and if their belonging tank is getting filled, then like, okay, that's what I'm looking for. I remember there was a girl of a person that used to staff workshops, and I think she was like 8 or 9 when she was having this conversation. I was at the house, and we just happened to have had the conversation. Oh, she doesn't want Tati to go because she misses him so much. And I don't know what, like, I was a guy, and I think I was like, 29? I knew nothing, but I definitely knew nothing. But I said, well, what happens? Is Tati a good Tati when he comes back? It's like, yeah. It's like, well, what happens if before Tati leaves, he makes sure that, that your love tank is full? He's like, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, on a car, there's a full and there's an empty. And what do we do when it's empty? We go to the gas station. So, well, what if Tati makes sure that? And she was like, I think that'll work. Like, I have no idea what happened after that, but like that was a moment where it was just so clear to me. Like, that's where the work happens. Like, we could podcast it away or talk about it till we're blue in the face, but like, that's where the rubber hits the road. So
yeah. And I guess with our kids, there's also those different phases of them, right? Am I doing something with my kids, or am I being with my kids? And there's challenges, right? The challenges.
So it's interesting with Magnetiles. I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm enjoying it way too much. I'm not supposed to enjoy it this much. This should be about her. No, but it's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
It's a question. It's a great question to have. Let's put it that way.
Right. I think there are different stages, right? Different stages. But I think that, right. I think with myself, I'm certainly more comfortable in the doing than in the being. And maybe we all get to that place of being comfortable getting our confidence from that, getting our self-worth from that, getting our value from that.
Resting in that.
What?
Really resting in that.
Resting in that. Being okay in that, and not needing to go into the doing and the having. I feel like we need that to exist. Thank you so much.
Thank you.